Hi, everyone. We're going to get started with our regular commission meeting, and I will open it up with roll call introductions from our commissioners. I'll start, and then we'll go to virtual commissioners. Commissioner Miller.
Mr. Stout.
Commissioner Everett.
Who's online? Steve? Steve is sick, so I think we'll just go with us. Okay. Okay, next we'll move for approval of minutes from April 23rd, 2025. I'll make a motion for approval. Can I get a second? Seconded by Commissioner Stout. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, our minutes are approved, and we will move to president and board updates. So that's us / me. I think one of the last meeting, we had some questions brought to us by members of the community. And so we wanted to just update folks that the commissioners are working through thorough answers on those questions to the community group, and we'll be getting those out shortly. I think one of the key questions was particularly about commissioner appointments and my appointment. And I just wanted to share that the term and the resolution for my appointment is that it's effective through to December 31st, 2024, or until a successor is duly appointed. So until a successor is duly appointed, I'll continue to serve in this position. And so any further questions about appointments, they are made by our city council and our mayor's office. And so we just encourage folks to send their questions there. I don't have any other board updates other than that, unless we have any comments from the rest of our board members.
No,
All right. With that, we will move to executive director updates.
Thank you, and Brandon. Our executive director's report for this commission meeting. Please move on to the next slide. All right, so just wanted to give the board an update on our reemployment or rehire. So based on the Civil Service Rule 11, Section 4, these are the conditions by which a former member of the classified service may be reemployed. They need to have these the bulleted items. I won't bore you with the details. You have the presentation, but I just want to highlight that the process as prior state is that we did not have a specific job posting specifically for reemployment and rehire. So what happens is if somebody's interested, they send their interest to the departments go through the vetting process before civil service captures the application and application date. And it is, so it's counterintuitive to the actual hiring process and practice that you should secure an application before you vet a candidate's eligibility for employment or possible employment. So CSC, again, relooked at this process and also ensured that we continue to review our practices and processes and make sure that they are aligned with our rules. So the current state, we collaborated with the departments to actually implement an evergreen or continuous requisition specific to lateral or specific to rehire candidates. Because what would happen is after the candidates get pre-vetted by the departments, we redirected these applicants to submit their application through either the entry level or the we call that the lateral requisitions, which those two have different minimum qualifications than a re-employment candidate. So move on to the next slide, please. The other item that I wanted to highlight and which I would like to request for a decision from the board is I highlighted the Civil Service Rule 11, Section 4, and the city charter that kind of captures the rules and the policies against reemployment or on reemployment. And then I also highlighted the department policies and procedures. So the department, DPD has in their operations manual, the length of separation that a former member may be considered for reemployment. Keep in mind, the charter nor the civil service rules do not describe these length of separation. DFD, on the other hand, quotes CSE rules and does not specify the length of separation. But historically, they've really leaned in towards a 2-year length of separation, just because of the certifications that need to be kept up to date and all that good stuff. And so I would like to request the board that we update our reemployment and rehire job posting and information booklets to specify the length of separation eligibility based on the department policy or recommendation without updating the civil service rules. What this will do is we will be able to provide the candidates transparency, but at the same time allow civil service to remain flexible in case of department policies and procedure changes in the future. Because if we put it in our rules, if the department changes, and I think the departments are soon to review their policies, they make changes, then we'll have to go back to the rules and change it. So again, and it's not really much of a difference between fire and police. For fire, they're recommending a 2-year separation to be eligible for reemployment. For DPD, their ops manual says that they need to have not exceeded 3 years from the time of separation to the time of reemployment, but that an applicant must apply before 2.5 years of separation. So, comments from the board?
Sounds good. I mean, it does make sense. Yeah, to have a process for people to be able to, regardless of what happened, to be able to re-enter into that field. Yeah, it'd be great.
And I think it also allows our team members to be able to, because I think our team members sometimes get questions about how, that length of separation, it kind of get tricky because it's not in the rules, it's not in our booklet. And so I want something that really says in writing and, being also mindful of what the department policies are and procedures. So.
What does what does 11 section? On one hand, we're saying the hiring is pursuant to the rule, but what that says is there's no rule.
No. Move to the previous slide, Brandon. So section 11 or rule 11, section 4 describes that they can be rehired if they get the written approval by the chief, written approval by the executive director of safety, written approval of a majority of members of the Civil Service Commission. And then it describes the examinations that we can administer depending on their length of separation, if it's under 90 days or over 90 days. What the rule does not say is how long they should have been separated before we consider or to be eligible for reemployment. So we have a rule, but it doesn't say you have to be separated under X amount of time to be considered.
If there's
Do you even need
further
to change
questions about,
You would need to change because won't get written approval of fire department. For instance.
The recommendation is not to change the rule. The recommendation is to update our job posting to indicate the length of separation.
I think if we have city attorney questions that we can follow up offline and answer those, so we can work through this, if we haven't already with the city attorney's office.
Craig is trying to.
Thank you.
Someone named Craig trying to looks.
Who looks like Greg.
Actually, Craig.
Hey, Greg. Welcome.
All right, move on to the next slide, please. All right, and so this is just a chart of the CSE hiring process for rehires that kind of better describes, again, for transparency on the life cycle of an application for a reemployment. And if they're not eligible for employment, they may be eligible for entry level, and then we follow entry level procedure. Slide, please. All right, so it is May, so I wanted to give the board an update on our 2025 agency goals and strategic plans. So if you can recall in our, for 2025, we set 8 goals. And so we have began and work really hard to ensure that we have the ability to track these metrics. And so I'm just happy to update on goal number 2. Obviously, number 1 is still in progress because we're still building the reporting mechanism. So if you see anything that's in progress, we didn't want to put out a data that doesn't have, you know, a tangible reporting or like a tracking system. So I want to make sure that we have that. So we'll continue to work on that. But goal number 2, if you recall, on Q1, February, we discussed about the implementation of the candidate survey. So we rolled it out to 2024 applicants to serve as our baseline survey. And so for the recent one for Q2, we sent it to 25-1 academy processing, those who became either eligible, registered, or are in the academy. So our candidate satisfaction score is 89.29% from the baseline data of 69.57 in the first quarter. So just happy to report that the team has really worked hard in providing that, and we are getting, you know, better responses also. And then for goal 4, compliance rate across all of our active contracts, that's still in progress, but I think there's only 2 contracts left to get into compliance, and then we'll be at 100%, which is the goal for 2025. And then let's see. For our goal 6, reducing the number of applicants who do not complete the entry-level written test by 20%. So we use the baseline data from the reporting dated 9/16/24. So we had a total of 1,433 candidates who applied but did not take the NTN test. So our goal for this year is to reduce that number by 20%, which means in the year 2025, we cannot exceed 1,146 non-test takers. And happy to report in Q1, we've had 454, and so far the quarter is not finished. So obviously we're still, we don't have any yet who did not take because it's not time to deny those applications for Q2. So we're on track and hopefully it stays that way. And then number 7 goal, it has been completed for the year. We've already expanded in Q1. We've completed and expanded our languages tested for special skills points from 8 languages to 30+ languages plus ASL in our effort to ensure that we be equitable further. And then goal number 8, to increase representation of minorities in the applicant pool. For Q1, we reached our goal for the population of Black or African American and American Indian and Alaskan Native. For Q2, we've reached our goals except for the Asian population, which is not far behind the goal of 4% because we're at 3.15. So, and again, this is a goal to attract the applicants and increase our applicant pool to meet these percentages. Any questions?
On item number 8, obviously part of this is also, part of this effort is also to work with recruitment, right? Which is not the responsibility of the Civil Service Commission. And it's a duty that is undertaken by our fire and police departments, I should better say. So I assume that we're working with them through some of it to meet some of these goals.
So civil service rules actually outline our duty to recruit. However, because of the capacity that we have, we signed an MOU together with Department of Safety and Fire Department and Police Department to have a collaborative effort on recruitment. And I can really say that they have been at the forefront of those recruitment. And our team has just been really grateful for their for their efforts, and we continue to support them in whatever ways we can. And also attend some of those activities where we can and that are necessary for us to help.
That MOU was established years ago, right?
Yes, but we renewed it this last year.
Thank you. Just two comments on agency goals and strategic plan. Since I've served on the board, this is the first agency goals and strategic plan that I've seen, and I'm just really grateful because I know that the whole commission, staff leaned in to develop these, maybe barring our new members, but and it's just so important to have those goals in front of us. This was a huge effort that we as a board had as a priority, have a strategic plan, to have goals and to understand what we're working towards. Even when they are aspirational, they're critical. And we're just super grateful for all the staff for developing these. And then I also want to just highlight one goal in particular, which is contract oversight and contract compliance. I think as a city department agency, do we call it? We call ourselves.
Call it an agency.
Thank you. As a city agency, it's so important for us to be having heavy oversight and accountability in our contracts and with our vendors. Obviously, no matter what agency or department we're talking about, but ensuring that they are hitting the standards that are set for all departments, whether we are independent or independently elected, independent in nature or otherwise. It's just so important for us to also have those expectations set, and that we're ensuring that taxpayer dollars are being spent well and we know what they're being spent on. So just really, I know everybody interacts with all of our contracts and vendors for this office, and it's just, and the work that they do is so important. And holding them accountable and making sure that they're hitting their deliverables is also super critical. So thank you for your attention. Those are my comments.
Any others, Commissioner?
I'll say number two, with the satisfaction score, I know when it comes to recruiting and hiring, it can be really tough on candidates, especially a long drawn out process, like law enforcement and fire department. So that means the staff is really having to, make contact, communicate with the applicants and make sure that they're aware of where they're at in the process. So I think that's great. It's a great marker for what staff are doing.
Thank you, and kudos, and again, grateful for the academy for also really helping promote the completion of these surveys. And these are anonymous ones. It is, it's specifically marked to where it doesn't identify who's responding, so that we can really get those honest and organic feedback for our improvements. Any other comments?
From the board.
I was just gonna echo what Amber said. I mean, just something that I think is really important and foundational for the organization. So great work, team.
Thank you. All right, so next slide, please. So just highlighting, with agency goals, because as Amber alluded to, they have been lofty, but that's what goals are supposed to be. They have to be stretched in order to push ourselves to be excellent. But along with our goals are strategic plans to help us accomplish the goals. So far, we've completed a candidate experience survey, police entry level written test, update, language testing expansion, and the board member guide. In progress are the comprehensive operations manual, formal training curriculum and cross-training plan, background history questionnaire updates, candidate checklist, and so on. Y'all can read, but these are all the things that we are still working on. And then on the next slide, we still have things, it's early in the year, but time flies, but we have not started on some of these things, and it doesn't mean we have not began to work, but it's just not a tangible start yet that we can measure. So these are the things that we plan to accomplish in the next quarter or so. And then just highlighting our community connection. We held an open house on 1/8. We met with Transforming Our Communities Alliance on 2/6. I presented at the City Council Safety, Housing, Education, and Homelessness Committee on 2/12. We had a resource table at the Southwest Area Plan Public Meeting on 4/26. And coming up is our virtual info session with two of our vendors, one for our polygraph and another for our job suitability assessment. What we really just want to go for here is education, right? We want people to understand how we do these things, and we want them to hear from the vendors and have the ability for their questions to be answered at that forum. So anyone who's, attending today, please encourage anyone you may know who may be interested, any stakeholder, community member, to please attend. It's virtual, so there'll be room for more. All right. Thank you. And that is the end of the ED report.
Excellent. Okay. We'll put you on the spot. Thank you, sorry.
I'm missing one here.
No, no.
Okay.
Goodness knows I'm not prepared.
Just trying to kind of keep it like fresh.
No, thank you. I was, okay. Well, with that, we're actually, we'll move on to item number 5, which is our special guest, Robin Jones, who works here at the City and County of Denver as well, to review, a working group that has been ongoing for some time now. All right, we'll hand it off.
Brandon, there you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Robin Jones. I am, as Gracie said, very long title, but I'm Department of Public Safety's Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Administrator with the Mayor's Office of Social Equity and Inclusion. Or I just like to say safety. Admin. So just thank you so much for having me here today. This is just like a proactive heads up to ensure you all are looped into the work that we've been doing, reviewing those civil service roles within. So next slide, please.
Hey, this is Greg. I don't know what happened. I got kicked out of the video.
All right, Greg, let us look into that. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Just give me 1 second. One of our commissioners. Oh,
Let's try again. Let's see what happens.
yeah, Greg, it turned your call into a phone number.
Yeah. I don't know why, like my video just disconnected, said there was a problem, and it put the number for me to call be put into audio. So
Here.
I'm here.
Brandon, if you wouldn't mind, well, I can do it. I'm gonna email you, Greg, a link, okay?
Yeah. I mean, I don't need a video. I can listen to the meeting. It's okay.
Okay, sorry, Commissioner, thank you.
Okay.
And you
Continue.
Yeah.
Super.
So just to jump in, how we got started on this project in the first place is because I am supporting all of the 6 safety departments, so police, fire, sheriffs, community corrections, 911, and the executive branch. And being just one person, it's kind of hard tackling frequent requests for policy review. That was a huge ask I got from all of my agencies quite often. And so to kind of expand or build long-term capacity or teach a person how to fish, if you will, I thought it would be a lot more effective to build a training and a tool for my departments to use to review their policies with. So I did a ton of research nationwide and adapted my tool from multiple tools, including some that we already had internally with OSCI, and was able to train about 40 different employees across the Department of Safety on how to do policy reviews with an equity lens. And then I challenged them all to go out in 2024 after we did the training, pick just one policy to start with and do a review. And then in 2025 to kind of come up with a plan to get through some of their other pain point policies. And make sure to at least use the tool on policies that we designing, we're making from scratch. And so then we got some interest in actually expanding using the tool with the civil service rules, because that does impact 3 different agencies that I work with. And so I agreed to kind of facilitate a collaborative review process with the various agencies. And we formed a working group and started doing reviews. So next slide, please. And so the purpose of the working group and the primary goal is to really apply that equity lens to the civil service rules and to see if we're able to identify any opportunities to improve fairness, clarity, and access. And now applying an equity lens to any review is important because policies really shape how services are delivered and how the people in our city experience our systems. And so using a standardized tool to do a review like this helps uncover unintentional barriers and gaps. And so why wouldn't we want to use something that's going to help us improve our processes, especially if it's to support a more inclusive and responsive approach? But more specifically for the civil service rules, a review like this is beneficial because it helps ensure alignment with broader equity values. It strengthens consistency across impacted departments. It also helps support the civil service with advancing equitable outcomes through their rules. Next slide, please. So what is an equity lens? Just to give you a really brief overview, it's just a set of questions. And so it's a set of questions you can run through to help you embed equity in anything that you're doing, whether you're designing, executing, assessing, anything from policies to programs, budgets, processes. And really the purpose of developing an equity lens for us here at OSCI in the city is just to help guide our city departments and agencies through reviewing their programs and policies so that they can get closer to achieving racial and social equity and social justice. And here in the city, we do define equity as a state in which race and social identities can no longer be used to predict outcomes. So definitely using a tool to review our policies helps make sure that our folks get a fair shake at being successful and really in our city. Next slide, please. So for our working group, as I mentioned, did agree to facilitate that group. I also serve as an equity advisor in that space. Initially did send invites out to the folks at fire and police who went through my policy review training. And because they're not our rules, and we want to be inclusive and make sure everybody's invited to the table. I did reach out to Jeanette to invite her to the group as well. And then did ask the group members to bring anybody else they thought was relevant to the table. I'm not an expert in the civil service rules, and so it's really depending on these group members to say like who needs to be at the table, whose voice is not represented. And so after we did that, we've been able to add members from the city attorney's office. We now have Mary Delacki on the group, and then got some additional representatives from police and fire, including some union representation in that working group. So we've grown quite a bit, and it kind of just depends on which rule that we're reviewing, who needs to be in the room and who doesn't. Next slide, please. So our timeline, we kicked off last summer, which is a planning meeting to get started with to decide, what we wanted to look at and how often we were able to meet. And after that, we do monthly meetings for just an hour to comb through the rules line by line as a group. And we are hoping and have been generating some proposed revisions and decided that we would be reviewing rules 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, and 17. We determined that the other rules either didn't have like an overt need for an equity review, or this wouldn't be the specific group that would be to do those reviews. So looking forward, hopefully we will be wrapped up this summer. And once that's done, then we'll sit down with Gracie and Chief Fulton and Chief Thomas to get their feedback and input on those revisions. And then I'll be available to provide ongoing support as needed, which I'll detail in an upcoming slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so what we're expecting from doing all of this work really is to have a set of equity informed proposed revisions for those civil service rules. But that's just the output of that, the time that we've spent in that room together. We really are thinking long-term of outcomes. What's going to happen because we have these proposed revisions? What's going to happen if we implement them? I'm really wanting to make sure that this work has positive outcomes and that we're able to really see that there's an impact that makes people better off than they were before we started these. So successful outcomes would look like clearer and more inclusive language, increased accessibility and fairness, improved alignments across departments, fewer unintentional barriers, and stronger equity considerations. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, what you can expect coming up soon, hopefully this summer, is that ongoing support as needed from me. So once we have those proposed revisions ready to go, I could be available if needed to help with drafting final language. Also, my office can help with any research needed on best practices to inform some of those final proposed revisions if we think that there might be some research needed to make decisions. Collaborative steps as needed. So there have been a few items in those rules that we were interested in maybe revising that were tied to charter. So obviously city charter would need to be updated before we can update our rules. So I have reached out to city council. I'm currently working with council president Sandoval and councilwoman Torres. I'm doing an equity review of city charter. And we are going to start with the civil service and the classified service charter sections first. So if anybody's interested in being a part of that review group, let me know because we're designing that team right this month. Actually. There are also some things that we've identified that would require some post involvement. So I'd also be happy to help facilitate any of those types of conversations or meetings. And then for you all with the commission, if there's any need for follow-up presentations, materials, information, whatever, to explain some of those proposed revisions before you decide on what changes you want to implement or not, I'd be available for that as well. And the next slide. So that's all I have to give you, just a general overview of the work we've been doing. And I'm happy to answer any questions or take any feedback.
From commissioners. Just focused on our meeting. Questions?
I'd be interested to learn more about it.
Yeah, can you clarify or give more detail about what you're undertaking? You're doing a complete equity review of the city charter with city council?
We're just starting on 2 sections first.
Okay,
So
what are those?
the civil service and classified service.
Can you clarify what classified services for?
Sure. The sworn police and fire.
Right, so civil service and classified service, so that's all under civil service commission, or does it include other?
It includes the department, because in the charter, they have a section broken off for civil service commission and the classified service. Correct. So those 2 sections is that,
Yeah. They're pretty small, so we don't anticipate it'll be as lengthy of a process, but right now we're just working on identifying the right people to invite to that. We're going to do a training with them on how to apply an equity lens and start a review.
I have a couple of other questions. So can you just tell us a bit about what spurred the focus on civil service commission, and then maybe give us some insights on, is this something that you're undertaking with multiple agencies? Are you working with other independent agencies? And are you doing this, like, is the plan to go through every single department's rules? I just like to kind of get maybe the broader perspective of what you guys are, and then why CSC and why now?
Yeah, that's a fair question. So, as I said, I did challenge all of the safety departments to do some policy reviews starting last year. So those have been rolling out, agency by agency. So that's something I'm helping support their teams with. And so, it's quite a daunting task to think of how many policies each of these 6 departments have. So I don't know that we'll ever get through all of them. But they are going to be just identifying ones that they wanted to, or, you know, they've gotten feedback that maybe they're a little outdated, or complaints, or things that haven't been touched in a while. So I've been working with several departments on that, like DPD. We've been going through their operations manual, which is like almost 900 pages, to do a language review, which we'll be hopefully wrapping up soon. So slowly we are chipping away at all of those safety departments and their strategies. And then I know police and fire had expressed interest in looking through the civil service rules. I know the relationship seems like it's been really great with Gracie on board. I'm just wanting to be more collaborative in design and how folks are working together. And it seemed like good timing because you're working with Peak Academy anyway to update a lot of the processes, help streamline things. And I know each fire and police are doing their own work, but things like recruiting to be progressive and to kind of think outside the box with what they're targeting. And so it just seemed kind of like a natural fit to see if there was interest from civil service to do a review like this. And luckily they were happy to, I don't know, let's say happy. They were willing to participate. I don't think anybody's happy to sit down and go through policy review. It could be quite trying. But it's always helpful to have an extra set of eyes on things when you're the one looking at your own rules. You miss things because you're just so seeing them. And so nobody's gonna catch everything in an equity review. That's why we make sure we have the right voices at the table, because everybody's bringing their own unique viewpoints and experience and expertise and even thought processes to that. And so we just thought it would be really helpful to offer to do that so that, you know, you don't have to take on the burden of hoping that you see an thing in the review. And so that's kind of how that project got started. And then because there was a need to look at the charter next, and city council heard that we were doing the civil service review group and that we had a policy review tool. They do reviews of the charter. They were really interested to hear more, so I reached out to them. Kind of explained the process of putting together a review group. And then and scoped what it would look like to do a full charter review. And they were definitely interested in starting the process as well. So it's been more of an organic. I just launched this for safety, and it's kind of led to these different.
So just going back to how it got started, it seems that there was a discussion with the 6 departments under safety, asking them what rules they were interested in reviewing in their own departments. And then they pointed out that what they wanted to look at was civil service rules.
I think you would maybe have to clarify with them what their thought process is and what their conversations were prior to me introducing my training and my tool. But it sounds like perhaps they were already interested in doing that review or looking into those things or asking for specific things to be updated or changed.
Okay.
And I think that was evident with the recent change on citizenship. Been quite successful. I think equity win for the city. We already have that great momentum to update things in a positive way, to be more inclusive and to remove barriers for people. It just it makes sense to say if there was anything else in there.
And then in terms of who makes in terms of decision making on your guys' administration side of the work, who's making the final decisions on the rules that are being reviewed? Like, you had the list of the several rules, like what's the decision making process there?
Yeah, our first kickoff meeting, we just sat down and quickly glanced over them. Skimming through them, like anything that jumped out as an opportunity for an equity review. So the group came up with that list of which ones we would review and then set the rest aside. It's quite a bit to tackle. You can see it's taken a long time, and so we didn't want to bite off more than we could chew. But there's always an opportunity to go back and review the rest if there's a need for that. But not everything needs an equity review. It's just, definitions or like I like to give the example of like the sheriff's department has a policy on how they store chemicals, and we don't really need to take time to do a equity review on something like that. Unless they're storing them really on tall shelves only, and then maybe there's some accessibility just to have, but not everything requires something, so that's kind of how we made that decision.
Okay. Okay. Those are my questions. So next big step is come this summer, you all are anticipating to have some recommendations that you'll bring to the commission. Okay. Anything else from commissioners? Oh, I got.
Thank you so much for your help.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate the work that you all are doing to, with the lens that you bring, and I'm sure we'd like to work with you all in your office more on even some of the goal setting and other work. So hopefully this starts maybe even a bigger conversation beyond rules review.
Absolutely, and I think everyone under the mayor's purview is required to have an EDI team and work with OSCI, and being an independent agency, you don't have that requirement, and so nobody was officially assigned, but I reached out. I was like, if you want me to come, help, it makes sense because I'm already working with safety agencies and have some familiarity with the processes and what you do. I'm trying to step in and fill that role. What?
I was just gonna ask, did you share? Actually,
I'll share their presentation and then after the meeting.
thank you. Yes, I meant, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, and I did mean to ask, have you worked with any other independent agencies yet to do this type of work? Okay, thanks. Okay. Great. We look forward to the follow-up. Oh, yeah. Hey, Greg, we see you now. Okay, with that, we'll move to item number 6, which is commission review of candidates. Welcome to say, but you also. Take off. Yeah, it's kind of a slog, so. Oh, you for that. Yeah, absolutely. What you need. You just go through the room and then we'll go.
Well, I'll start. Okay, I'll start with more than Everett Miller Stout. That should have been Steve Foster on the last, I'm sorry. I'll update it later. So I'll call the names, the last names, the first 2 candidates, and then we'll just go organically in that order. Sound good, commissioners?
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's start with candidate 184444, Moore,
Fail.
Everett,
Fail.
Miller,
Fail.
Stout.
Fail.
Candidate 342836,
Fail.
Fail.
Yeah.
Fail.
candidate 165144,
Fail.
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 335974,
Fail.
Fail.
Fail, sorry.
Fail.
188139,
Fail.
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 349401,
Fail.
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 174858,
Fail.
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 250032,
Pass.
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 280481,
Pass.
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 335141,
Pass.
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 339103,
Pass.
Fail.
Pass.
Pass.
316763,
Pass.
Fail.
Pass.
Pass.
159972,
Pass.
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 68835,
Pass.
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 342280,
Pass.
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 339920,
Pass.
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 Pass. Sorry.
163794,
Pass.
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 343452,
Pass.
Pass.
I'll be pass.
Oh. Not bad enough.
Okay.
137479,
Pass.
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 all right, 342905,
Pass.
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 219930,
Pass.
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 342186,
Pass.
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 321018,
Pass.
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 279185,
Pass.
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 308584,
Pass.
Fail.
Pass.
Pass.
309180,
A pass.
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 309002,
Pass.
Fail.
Pass.
Pass.
94176,
Pass.
Fail.
Pass.
Pass.
326121,
Pass.
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 286345,
Pass.
Fail.
Fail.
Sorry. Hold. Yeah, that's it.
317195,
Pass.
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 167177,
Pass.
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 111535,
Pass.
Fail.
Pass.
Pass.
293105,
Pass.
Fail.
I'm sorry, I didn't page.
So,
Which one, 105?
uh-huh,
Oh. I think I'm a hold, just because I'm not sure.
this is 105.
yes, 293105,
Pass.
all right. 335663,
Pass.
Fail.
Fail.
Pass.
222219,
Pass.
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 339883,
Pass.
Pass.
Fail.
Hold.
251328,
pass,
Fail.
pass.
I am abstain.
322-823.
pass,
Fail.
Fail.
Hold.
337-334.
pass,
Fail.
Fail.
325-854.
pass,
Pass.
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 327-208.
pass,
Pass.
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 337-965.
pass,
Pass.
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 275-666.
pass,
Pass.
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 1888.
pass,
Fail.
Pass.
Pass.
Last page. All right. 307-911.
pass,
Pass.
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 342-312.
I had a hold on this initially, but, I have a hold.
Okay.
Fail.
Fail.
Hold. So
Well, then I'll change my vote to fail.
I'll change mine to fail, so.
Okay.
Trying to.
Which just means we're deciding we don't need a conversation.
Yes, yep.
Yeah, we don't need a conversation.
Thanks, Fran.
Thank you. Next one, 346-895.
Pass,
Fail.
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 207-144.
pass,
Pass.
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 168-181.
pass,
Pass.
Pass.
328-094.
pass,
Pass.
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 348-911.
pass,
Fail.
Fail.
No vote.
Abstain. All right, that concludes review.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. And excited that we can now take virtual votes.
do we need to discuss anything? I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, it'll be, any discussions will be held outside of the open session. Great.
Got it, okay.
We'll follow up. All right. With that, we have comments from the public. We will open it up for folks. If they would like to make comments, we'll open it up. They can just state their name and we do 3-minute comments. We'll just let you know when you're at the end of your time. It's similar to city council. Any public comments? All right, well, with that, thanks for everybody who attended today, and I'll make a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner James. Sorry. And all in favor say aye.
Uh,
All right. Thanks all. Have a great day.